Event Freelancers, welcome to your new community, connecting you to your next project. Get connected. Sign up now. It's free.
We've learned what it's like to come into the industry with event management training and education. But many of you are probably like me, who came into the industry with none at all and learned everything you know on the job. The number of people I've spoke to who said, no one can learn what I know. It's increasingly important to keep learning all the way through your working life. As Dr. Zeus said, the more you read, the more things you will know. The more you learn, the more places you'll go. And that's certainly true of the events industry. But what training is out there? So in this session, we have Caroline Jackson, who you've already met, is going to chair a session with Derrick, who is the principal and founding director of Event Academy, and David Preston from Realise, about the training opportunities that are available.
Thank you, Steve. And hopefully you all listened to that last session, many sessions today. And I think ours does definitely lead on, doesn't it, from first steps into the industry to the next ones, and what they can be. So I've got two fantastic people to answer that question about how can you develop your career, given that most of you, assuming, are freelancers. And it's going to be an interesting session if you add some questions to the question and answer session. But just looking at the chat, we can see where some of those arguments are. And think, oh no, not again. The argument between having a degree and not having a degree. Okay, education is important, but it's an issue, isn't it? You think, well, is there a career? And a career we think of as going through jobs and up a ladder, but actually no, it's about you and growing as a person and developing those skills and competence. And my interest is in the people who work in the industry, and that human capital and how you can actually nurture and grow that. So I'm really pleased that we are joined by Derrick, who's principal of the Events Academy in London, who offers events courses, and David, who is from Realise Me, which, I mean, the title of the website says it all, but they do a number of service agency work, but also offer courses, and actually have been one of the leaders in the event apprenticeship and taking that forward. And again, I saw in the chat where people saying, well, I'm an apprentice, and it's really good to see that we've got some on board. So I'm going to ask the two of them to answer that question about how do you develop your career, and we can then take their answers to develop the discussion in the half an hour we've got. So as I said, don't forget to put some questions in the session. So starting with you, David, then a little bit about you and how do you think freelancers can develop their career?
Thank you, Caroline. Yes, and it is interesting, and I do get this often asked about, well, what do I need to do? And I've got two answers to that. First of all, it is about skills and knowledge. Okay, yes, experience is important, and the jobs you've done are important, but it is equally important to think about or look at the skills that you have. I'll give you an example. So my son, when he left school, he trained to be a chef, which was a great career and a great job, and he trained under a Michelin star chef and got all the sort of qualifications he needed to do that. He eventually decided really as a career it wasn't for him. And he said, well, Dad, how can I get on and change my jobs? All I know is being a chef. So we sat down and actually went through what it means to be a chef and looked at the skills and the knowledge that he's gained and found the types of roles that potentially he could do. So, one thing, he was good at working under pressure. There's nothing more pressurized than working in a very busy kitchen. He's good at working with customers. He's good at being creative, all of those things. And lo and behold, when we actually analysed his skills and his knowledge, actually working in events paralleled very nicely into that. So my point, I suppose, is that just because you've done a job doesn't mean you have to stay in that job for life. And as long as you continue to build those skills and knowledge, then that's the thing that will help you develop in your career. The second part, I suppose I would say to you as well, is never stop learning. And I think Claire and I have talked about this in the past, that, you know, it has to be a lifelong process. The day you stop learning something new is the day you start to stagnate. And what employers, and whether that's employers as corporates or employers as agencies, are always looking for you to come up with new ideas, new ways of doing things. You know, we heard in the last session there about, oh, I never learned anything about the technology. Okay, but learn about the technology so you can bring that to your clients. Never stop learning. And as an example, you know, I set myself every year something to learn. Last year, you know, I learned to, you know, I took a qualification in teaching. Okay, because that's what part of what I do for a living. So I thought it was probably good that I got qualified in that. Yeah, the previous year I'd learned to sail, something completely different. But again, I'd learned some tools and techniques that I can use in my day job. And this year, because my business partner lives in France, I decided I ought to probably learn to speak French. So, you know, but the point being is that, you know, you're never too old to continue to learn. So over to you, Claire.
Thanks.
Thank you, David. I totally agree with you. The mind is a muscle, and if you don't use it, you will lose it. And I think I've been in the industry now for 23 years. And when I started, there were no training courses in event management. I had to knock on agency doors, and the amount of rejections I got were countless. And I had to learn on the job, which is great. It's a really good grounding skill to have to learn as you're working. But there are so many things that I could have learned quickly and fast track myself had there been courses out there. And now there are. And during the last session, I was watching the quite robust conversation about, you know, do you go to university, do you train on the job, or do you take a short course, and or an apprenticeship like Realise Me offer. We offer short courses. There are university courses, and I think it is horses for courses. It's what suits your life, what suits your financial ability, and what suits you as an individual. I went to university. I got a degree in international business and marketing. It was nothing to do with events. And as I say, I worked my way up. Had I been younger now and wanting to take a course, I would have taken a course in event management, and probably a short course. So I think, even though most of you now are working in the industry, some of you have just started, but some of you are maybe years into the industry. And I would say, keep learning something new. I'm furloughed at the moment from my organisation, and I'm currently training to be a life coach. And a bit like David, I've decided to take a TEFL course and teach English as a foreign language, just because I've always wanted to do it. And keeping my brain active. It's making me learn something new, which is really important.
Yeah, and actually, Caroline, as well, another thing that you know, I've been doing is I'm doing an online course in digital marketing. Okay, and I can actually apply that directly to my business almost instantly. You know, I learn about SEO 1 minute, the next minute I'm on our website changing stuff to make it better. So there's very tangible things that you can be doing. You might think it's an overhead, but suddenly it improves your business. And if you're a freelancer, you might have a website yourself. Go do a digital marketing course, and then you can apply that learning directly to your business. And the next thing you know, you get more leads and more business anyway. So you're suddenly investing in your business as much as you are in yourself. And I think that's an important thing to remember. You are your business when you're a freelancer.
Yeah, I mean, and as you said, it's not just about the core skill you've got. Say you're a photographer, and that's your passion, and you love the context that an event gives you. But you, as you said, as a freelancer, you are a business, and so there's lots of education and courses that you can actually do. So, do you think it is about identifying something that's generic? So is it about marketing? Is it generally about management and business? Or is there something specific about events that's important, either through practice, through, say, an apprenticeship, or through a short course at the Event Academy, that's something that people need to look at? Do they need to have events in the title?
But for me, you know, there are many generic skills, but they've always got to be contextualized for the world of events. You know, yes, you can do, you know, you could do a finance course, because again, you need to know the finance to be able to either run an event budget, or to, you know, you just run your own company budgets, you know, in looking after your expenses, things like that. As long as you can contextualize it into your job, then it's worth doing for me. You know, I say that's why for digital marketing, it's a very important skill for us all to have in events now, understanding the world of online. You know, this pandemic has actually caused so many of us to actually learn how to use these tools that we're on today. Yeah, become an expert in one of those tools, and therefore it's another string to your bow. It's a, you know, it's not a job you necessarily done, it's a skill you've suddenly got.
What about you, Claire? Do you think it's difficult when you've got an events academy?
No, I would totally agree. I think you need to sit yourself down and identify your skills gap. So, for example, we're having loads of alumni coming to us and saying, you know, we're doing great in our jobs, in our career, but we don't know how to organise virtual events. So at the moment, Event Academy is putting together a course on how to organise virtual events. But it might be that, as David said, you know, your skill gap is in financial management. You don't know really, you haven't got a huge skill in budgeting. Now is the time to go out and get that skill. So whatever it is, you need to identify what your clients need and where your skill gaps lie.
Yeah. So what support is there to help you identify what their skills gaps are? Because as a freelancer, sometimes you can feel quite isolated. So Claire, what sort of, where should a freelancer go to help them identify what they need to do?
That's a really good question. I would start with my clients. If you have a relationship with your clients that is good enough, email them, contact them, have a Zoom or a Skype meeting with them and say, what are you needing? You know, what does the future look like for you? And identify where they think they're going. And probably from those conversations, you'll be able to sort of think, oh, okay, then I haven't got that skill. I need to go and get it if I want to keep that client. So I would say your clients first and foremost, but there are so many forums and so much free training right now out on the internet, webinars, short courses that are free, organised by Eventbrite and LinkedIn. Just go and look around, and there might be something that you didn't even know you needed right now that you can take pretty much for free.
David, what do you think? Where should people look to? Because it's huge, the opportunity, and therefore you get lost, but also it's not detailed enough, perhaps.
No, absolutely, and you know, again, sometimes you don't know what you don't know, and that can be the challenge. So one of the things, or a couple of things. First of all, I'm also a member of one of the associations, so MPI. I'm on the board of for education for there. So join one of the appropriate associations for your part of the industry, because they have themselves lots of education and training courses and things like that you can follow up and take advantage of. Many of them, again, as Claire says, are for free at the moment and things like that. The second piece I really would encourage, and again, we heard it in the last discussion, which is about getting yourself a mentor. Okay, you're never too old to have a mentor as well. You know, I have people that I look to for when I need advice and guidance about my business. Okay, get yourself a mentor. Your mentor will then help you again go through that process of looking at the skills, maybe identifying the skills gaps, and may have some suggestions on where to go to improve those skills. So, you know, a mentor. You know, there's a program again that I work with called Elevate. And it's only for people in the events industry. Okay, so look up what they're here, you know, what programs they have. They have education and training as much as the mentorship that they provide as well. So those two elements, I would think, would be the ideal thing to do.
Yeah, I think you're right. The thing about mentorship often is outside of your organisation. So Priya mentioned one that. I was Priya's mentor on Fast Forward 15 scheme. So again, that's one that is just for women within the sector, but it is really important. And Claire mentioned coaching. What about coaches? What's the difference between a mentor and a coach?
The difference between mentoring and coaching in its sort of basic form is Mentoring is somebody who has a lot more experience than you, has been around the block a few times in your industry, and can give you real hands-on advice, introduce you to people, get you into events, and really show you and give you advice on what you should be doing right now. That's real mentoring. Coaching is more about the individual finding out what they want to do themselves. So the coach will give them a set of questions and ask them questions that leads the individual to find their own solutions to their problems or issues or challenges. David, do you want to add anything?
No, that's very good, actually. And it is, some people do confuse the two, and they are very, very different. Often a coach is not an expert in your industry. And therefore is looking at you from a pure skills and attitude point of view, not about the industry. And where, conversely, to actually be a good mentor in the events industry, you need to come from the events industry. Like you and I, Claire, we've been around the industry for years, and therefore we know lots of people like Caroline and whatever, and say, she's the lady you need to talk to because she's got this experience that you could really benefit from.
So what do you think going forward is going to be the areas that freelancers need to consider? Get the sense that some people have shied away from what's the challenges that are happening, and others who have said this is really exciting, that I can see a way forward. So what do you think is going to be let's be positive, the opportunities going forward for freelancers in the events industry? Claire, what about you?
It's a massive question, and I think my own personal view would be freelancers, or more and more the industry is going to be about blended events. And we're humans, we need that human connection. We want to get back in the room with each other. We want to see the whites of each other's eyes. We need that as an industry. And I don't think that will go away. I don't think it's going to come back for a long time in its old format. So I think clients will be looking for a blended version of events. So they'll still want that live element, but they'll also want the virtual element now, because this could happen again, and that's something that clients will be very aware of. So to blend the live experience with the virtual experience is key. And I think freelancers are going to need to do both. So we're experts in delivering live events, absolutely, but are we experts in virtual events? And how do we create that wow factor, and how do we run it technically? And clients are going to want that more and more.
Yes, it's interesting, and I suppose it very much depends on your role as a freelancer. And I think we heard right from the beginning when Simon Hughes was talking this morning about how the industry will change and evolve. If you are a logistics freelancer that has focused on organizing hotel management and whatever else, that's going to be a challenge in the short term, because people aren't going to be traveling and don't need those hotel rooms. If you're a producer, then absolutely, I'm a great believer that a virtual event should be produced with the same rigor and same discipline as a physical event. And if you don't, a little like this one today, Steve has gone out and found a partner whose day job is producing live events. He didn't just put a Zoom up and hope that we all could connect. They produced it just like a physical event. And I think if you're a producer, you will be, probably in more demand than you were in the past, because there's going to be so many more options. It's easier, perhaps quicker, to do an online event than perhaps it has been in the past. But your skill will still be there. So I think for the freelance community, if you're a logistics person, then think more about, well, how can I use those skills within the world of a virtual event? Okay, and if you're a producer more, then actually, make sure you're up to date with the latest technology.
There's a question about where can I find a coach, because we've said about a couple of the mentoring schemes. So that one is down to Claire at the moment to start to release some of the surprises.
Okay, yeah, well, I'm very much a student myself right now, and I'm looking for 3 coachees, people who have a specific challenge in their life. Maybe you want to upskill, or you want to find a new area of your industry to break into. And I'm looking for 3 people to coach. Please bear in mind that I am a student myself, so you will be my guinea pigs, you will be my students, and we'll be learning together. So if anybody's interested, please drop me a line privately in the chat, and we can connect, and I'm happy to coach you.
Perfect. Sounds like a great offer to anybody out there.
It does. And one of the other participants, Laura Cabra, also offers in her team opportunities. So that's something that perhaps we can push out as a coaching opportunity within the events field to make people feel a little bit more comfortable. So I just look at the AJ said that that's one of his challenges, was to organise this summit from a conversation with his coach. So that's it, isn't it? I mean, I suppose that's the similarity between mentoring and coaching, is helping you to decide what your goal is. As we said, there's some freelancers that are sort of new to the industry, and most people that have been going for 30 odd years. But as David said at the beginning, we're always learning and therefore we're agile and adaptable. And when we get the pandemic, we see that as a positive challenge rather than a negative one, and going forward. And I'll just look at the questions again, looking for, again, advice on how low-cost training is available. As Claire said earlier, one of the issues for me was there was so much free content going out there, and therefore that perhaps devalues some of the opportunities that are around. I think people have seen it as an opportunity to give back to the industry in this time, and I think that's really positive. But going forward, we need to value the courses and the training and the coaching that's on offer, and I need to appreciate that. And one of the questions is, do you need a certificate? So I know some of the online, like #Event Insights, are giving people certificates. So it is looking at what evidence can you actually have to demonstrate your new skills and expertise that you can put on your CVs. So what about these? And because it's agile, I think the future will be a lot more bite-sized. Even universities that have got 3-4 year degrees will look at that opportunities to cut it up a little bit to be chunk sizes they need to be going forward. So what about these opportunities that both of you have to offer to the audience today? So I'll start with David. What support can you give to those?
Yes, and absolutely. I see the question there about not everybody can afford hundreds of pounds to go on a course at this point in time, especially if you've been furloughed or you're just out of work. So what we agreed with Steve was that we have a portfolio of training courses that we provide at Realise, that we would make 3 of them available at very low cost, or like £25 each. To do a course with us. It'd be just a one day or half day, but tutor-led workshop rather than just watching a webinar or something like that, which I think is very important. Again, you mentioned earlier on, we're a face-to-face business. We like people. I didn't want to just put a video of us talking to people, but actually have an interaction. So Steve will be publishing 3 workshops. I think we're going to do storytelling and story selling, financial skills for the event professional, and the art of pitching. So 3 sort of relevant topics, and there'll be dates which you can just sign up for, and you'll be given some contact details how to do that after the session today.
And Claire, you've got similar opportunities and offers to the audience.
Absolutely. David, yours sound amazing. I might actually come on one of your courses if that's okay. So what we can offer is, if you go to our website and click onto our masterclass page, every single masterclass is available totally free of charge to people on the session today. So all you need to do is contact me and just state which masterclass you'd like, and we'll get you set up. It's totally automated. It's bite-sized training. The masterclasses range from between 40 minutes to 2 hours. So there's not a lot of time to be invested, but you can have one or as many as you like. So we're offering that, and they'll be open for a month for everybody. They're not accredited courses. You do get a certificate at the end. But what I'd like to say as well is myself as a client, so I take on lecturers for our courses, and after lockdown finishes and we go back to more training in the classroom, I will be looking to see what our freelancers have done during lockdown. And I want to see that they've been investing in themselves and they've taken the opportunity to do as much training and development of themselves, both as a professional in the industry, but also as just a human being. And I'm going to be looking closely at that as a client.
Thank you. Have you got any lasting words, David? We've got a couple of minutes left.
Yeah, no, I'd repeat what we started with, I think, Caroline, which is, life is too short not to keep learning. So whatever you do, just find a way to find a course. There's loads of stuff online. Even my digital marketing course was £20, I think it was, but it's like 20 hours worth of learning. So it's extraordinary value at the moment. And most of us can probably afford that sort of level of investment in ourselves and in therefore our business that we're providing.
And there's a last question really, I suppose. Given the pandemic, do we think the health and safety qualification is a must going forward? And I think the health part of that is something perhaps hasn't been highlighted, but safety is still a huge issue. So the more that you can get those skills and qualifications, the better your CV will be. And recognising that why you have done that, not just because it's another tick box or something to add to the CV, but you've actually learned and can apply that and see the relevance of what you're doing going forward. So thank you both very much for an insightful session, as well as, of course, the offers. As you said, I think I'll be the first one in line to come and do some learning, because we have learned so much during this time, and certainly for today. So thank you all very much for coming. Thank you, Claire and David, for your insights. And we're back to the main summit. So I think we're still around. We've been around all day. So if you want to tap us on the shoulder, then please do. Thank you both very much. Bye.
Event Freelancers, welcome to your new community, connecting you to your next project. Get connected. Sign up now. It's free.